She was bold, fearless, and unlike anyone else in her time. Jane Russell, a name that still sparks curiosity decades later, shocked the world with photos that pushed the limits. We are going to look at some of her most daring images that left very little to the imagination. Stick around, because what she did in these pictures was unlike anything most people had ever seen back then. Jane Russell was more than just an actress. She became a symbol of freedom, confidence, and sometimes controversy. These photos we are talking about were taken during a time when showing too much of the human body was frowned upon. And yet, Jane did not hold back. She knew the power of her presence, her charm, and her figure. Now, these are not the normal magazine pictures one would see today. These were daring for the 1940s and 1950s. Jane posed in ways that most women of her time would never dare. Some people were shocked, some were fascinated, and many could not stop talking about them. But Jane stayed calm, confident, and completely herself. One might wonder why Jane chose to do such photos. It was not just for attention. Jane wanted to show strength and confidence. She wanted people to see her as a woman who could be in control, proud, and unafraid. And honestly, she did it with a smile and a sparkle in her eyes that made everyone notice. Look at this picture. Jane is wearing a very tiny swimsuit. For her time, this was considered bold. Today, it might look normal, but back then it was shocking. Women were not supposed to show so much skin in public or even in magazines. Jane broke that rule with style. People were talking about these images everywhere, from newspapers to gossip columns. And it is not just about the clothes or the lack of them. It is the confidence. Jane's expressions, her pose, the way she looked at the camera, all said one thing: I am in control. It made these photos unforgettable, even decades later. Many actresses tried to copy her style, but Jane had a presence that could not be copied. Some of these images are called G-string photos, and yes, they show a lot. But it is not just about the daring outfits. It is about Jane challenging what women were allowed to do in public. She made bold choices that people still remember today. And that is why her photos became so famous. They were daring, different, and unforgettable. Imagine the courage it took to do this at that time. There were critics ready to judge every move. People worried about what others might think. But Jane ignored the whispers. She posed, smiled, and became a star in a way no one else could. These images were not just pictures. They were statements. Statements about freedom, power, and being oneself. Interestingly, Jane's photos did not hurt her career. In fact, they helped her stand out. Hollywood loved her charm and confidence. Directors wanted her for films, and fans could not get enough. The boldness she showed in photos translated into her movies. People wanted to see her on the big screen because she had this energy that no one could ignore. Jane also had a fun side. Behind the daring poses and beautiful photos, she was playful and full of personality. Her charm was not just in the way she looked. It was in the way she carried herself. One can see it in every smile, every pose, every look at the camera. That is why even now, decades later, people still admire her photos and her personality. So, when one looks at these daring photos of Jane Russell, remember this. She was a woman who did not let anyone tell her what to do. She knew her worth, she embraced her body, and she left a mark that could not be erased. Her photos were not just about showing skin. They were about showing confidence, strength, and a little mischief too. These images are now part of history, but they still feel fresh. Jane Russell reminds us that confidence never goes out of style. She dared to be herself, and that is something everyone can admire. No wonder people still talk about her photos even now. Bold, playful, and unforgettable, that is Jane Russell. If one enjoyed seeing these photos and learning about Jane Russell's courage and charm, make sure to keep her story alive. She showed the world that being bold is not just about looks. It is about confidence, personality, and being proud of who one is. Jane Russell did it all, and these photos will keep reminding us of that for years to come.